multiple times over, you have built satellite markets and satellite offices from the ground up for businesses that have a relatively established either brand or entity in, let's call it America, or their hub. So how do you think about the framework of building out that satellite market and building out those satellite offices for a hub that does have a brand in their local market at home, but doesn't necessarily, especially as American businesses, doesn't necessarily understand that you don't have the same brand equity, you don't have the same product equity in the marketplace? What's the framework you think about, or the principles that you think about as you want to build out those satellite markets and satellite offices?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll talk about mainly maybe the approach on mindset. Let's call it the mindset first, and then I'll talk about the practicality of like a framework. Going into the job or any kind of role, I think of it, taking a job, you need to align with your purpose. And I'll come back to this a bit later when we talk about kind of the other journey. But your purpose is how you show up, like why you jump out of bed every day. You need to also understand the company that you're going to be working for and the role you're going to do and how you believe in that purpose. If you truly want to have impact. If you just want to like take a job and work 9 to 5 and rock up, and go home feeling accomplished, then there's plenty of jobs to do that. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to have a super impactful career with a company that is there to support you and to help you grow and push yourself in a direction that I focus on is really life-changing. So that alignment on purpose and values really then matters to then how you build out your approach to build the market, because you're the face of the brand at that point. So when I started LinkedIn and I plugged my computer in and there's access to a CRM with no people in it. It's like going back to the 70s where you would pull out a Yellow Pages and you would go through almost one by one and start calling people. But of course, we had the network LinkedIn, and so I'd been in the industry, and so you generally start hitting the phones. And so the people that you used to have relationships with and networks with, you would call them and say, hey, I'm now at LinkedIn and this is what we do. And I need to talk to you about this amazing platform that we have. I think it'd be very much of interest. Let's grab a coffee. Now, what's amazing with and super fortunate with the companies I've worked for is that people know the brand. So you can easily get a meeting. So that's a huge advantage. If you work for a smaller business that you don't have any brand equity, it's very challenging to get a meeting. The downside to that is that everyone wants to meet with you, and those that actually want to buy from you can be very limited. So you end up spending lots of money, drinking lots of coffee and having really nice lunches, but actually not getting much cut through. So if you focus on kind of the framework, which is right, you got the value proposition on where your product fits to market, you're focused on the purpose and you're passionately aligned with the purpose, then it's a case of, okay, how do you then go to market? And then how do you start to build a network and start to sell the product? And then you start to think about, okay, well, who's the customer? Like who's the actual buyer of the product that I'm going to be talking to? Who signs the check? Who's the key decision makers? How long does it take to sell the product? How can we speed up the sale of the products? All these things are, deal velocity and sales cycle and conversion. How many meetings do I need to have in order to sell the product? How many proposals do I need out? These are all fundamental sales things, which you kind of want to, as a salesperson, you want to have the basics, so for forecasting and all those things that are important. But once you sort of fundamentally understand the basics, then it's a case of, well, then how do I influence the sell? And that comes down to you. And that comes down to your understanding, your research that you do with the customer, how you show up, how you present yourself, how you articulate yourself, all those sorts of things. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people they like. So you can read all the sales books in the world, and believe me, I've got buddies that just don't put sales books down, and they're successful salespeople, and that's fantastic. So there's two ways, but I think fundamentally for me, at the end of the day, what I found successful in helping these satellite businesses grow from the ground up is just getting the basics right, getting some wins on the board. The other thing is testimonials. So very early, when you win your first 2 or 3 deals in any market, whether you have 0 customers or 1,000 customers, get really close to those testimonials and have them tell 10 people they know in their industry to buy your product, or the reasons why, or the impact that it's had to their business, because those testimonials will fundamentally help you scale your business. And the other we can talk about is channel partners, which I've more recently come to know. But
quickly on testimonials, do you feel like it's more important to have them written down and documented, or do you think that just that they're out there with happy voices in the market, that's enough?
Definitely note them for sure. Like anecdotal, I heard a comment or a line here, or they said this particular thing. So anecdotal feedback, we can provide in a verbal way. Nothing that you can put on the front of a newspaper, of course, that doesn't have their approval. But generally speaking, people are comfortable if they've said, at a conference or over a dinner table that, hey, what you've done for our company has been 10x valuable, then you can share that story. And so those are the stories, in fact, are the things that really matter. And storytelling is another incredible skill, I think, that people I've become to love do very well in terms of being able to sell a product or a service.